Thank you very much for keeping us company. We are heading straight to Family Matters, and tonight we're going to be talking about women empowerment. In studio, I am joined by two powerful women. One of them is known to you. Her name is Kasavuli. She has been in the media for a very long time, over 30 years, and her work has spoken for itself over the years. She will be telling us what she's been up to. The other one is the CEO, Timeless Women of Wonder organization, Nyakan, Munyeki, right? Thank you very much for joining us. I know that this used to be your home.
Yes, it was.
In the 80s?
Yes, for 10 years.
For
actually.
10 years?
Yes.
Between 1980
and 1990, before I moved to another one.
All right, we'll talk about that. And yes. Can I call you Nyakan?
Yes, you can.
Thank you very much for coming. Timeless Women, what is it all about?
Timeless Women of Wonder is an organization that was set up to actually transform our continent, Africa, through women. And when we look at that transformation, we're looking at social and economic transformation and looking at the role that women play in transforming our continent. Mm-hmm. You find that women are key contributors to many aspects of development. You're looking at agriculture. More than 80% of Africa's small-scale farmers are women, okay? But are women's voices present in decisions around agriculture, for example? Look at the largest consumer for health services, it's women and children. But do women play any role at all in the policies and in the strategies that our health sectors implement? You're looking at consumer decisions. More than 92% of consumer decisions are driven by women. But do people have women representing the voice of your largest consumer at board level, at senior management level? So we're just saying that if Africa is going to win and win big, we need to win as a full team, not a half team. We have men doing a great job in that space, and we want to bring women into the game as well.
All right.
Yes.
Catherine.
Yes.
It's been a while since we saw you on TV. I grew up watching you.
Yes.
Where have you been?
Well, I've been all over the place. I have been teaching, and at the same time, I have been helping people like Nyakan, to promote their businesses and also to roll out their plans. And yeah, that's all I've been doing.
I'm sure your rich history in the media must be playing a very important role.
Yes.
But the question is always about the impact that you are having,
yes,
especially on those budding journalists, for example,
yes,
because that's the line of work that you, for yes, 34 years,
yes,
you are in. How has the impact been?
Well, I believe I've had, I have been a very big influence in their lives. They, they modeled themselves on me, using my work. Many occasions I actually sneaked on some, and they had taken tapes of my previous recording, and they were watching how I was delivering the news. But a lot needs to be done, especially now. I think some policies need to be addressed, yeah, and I believe that's the reason why I am here, because part of the Timeless Women's Conference agenda is going to touch on media and technology. And of course, we are going to, have conversations around policies in broadcasting, in print, because right now, what is happening is after the digital migration,
yes,
everything has become so dynamic, and if we do not have policies that sort of, keep us within a certain, realistic framework, we're going to lose quite a lot in the media industry.
All right. Nyakan, you're the brainchild behind all of this. I'm sure you have a family. What was the intention? Because for a very long time, we have seen women coming out, taking that space that had previously been occupied by men. And this is something that we have seen in the latest elections in the US. A very huge number of women have been elected to Congress. The greatest inspiration behind this, with family in mind, what are you seeking to achieve?
You know, Edward, you have actually hit the nail on the head.
Mm-hmm.
When we set out to set up this organization, we took a lot of time to look at the landscape of women's empowerment, how much gains have been made over the many years, what has been the true impact and effect, not just on women, but in society in general, and economically and politically.
Mm-hmm.
And when we looked at the entire equation, we noticed that the thinking around empowering women is a noble idea, great idea, that makes a lot of business sense, political sense, strategic sense, and logical sense. It makes sense that if you empower a woman, really, you have transformed the entire world because of the communities and the roles women play. But then why wasn't the impact so large in terms of the results we should be seeing for women? And we noticed that some things that could contribute to that little incremental impact that we were feeling, especially myself, because I really felt that there should be such great impact around the space of women. Some of the things that would have contributed to that for us was the narrative, the narrative of women's empowerment. The way we communicate about women's empowerment can sometimes come across as competition and kicking men out of their spaces, which should not be the case. But if that perception is what is felt on the landscape, then you find that men who are the political leaders, the cultural leaders, the religious leaders, and the business leaders will lock the doors. So very few women have to really struggle with a lot of effort to make it in. And so you find that it's growing, and you know, the impact around women is really narrow. So we thought, we want Africa to be great. When I say Africa, I mean our countries, our country Kenya, our counties, our communities, our families.
Yes.
Comes down to the basic unit, which is the family unit, that is the beginning of the community. Okay? Yes. Now, if we're going to be empowered at that level, it means that we have to be transmitting the correct narrative about why we want women to be empowered. Because when people understand the why, because women nurture, because women are forward-thinking and farsighted. And that's not to mean that we want men out of the equation. It means that we are joining you in the game. It means that if you can farm, an acre of land in one day, and you bring 2 people, you will farm that acre of land in half the time. And if that is the narrative we're bringing in, men start to relax. They say, yeah, we need you in the game. And they start to open the doors. So for us, we set up 7 pillars, as channels to empower women, one of which is men.
Yes.
Because we say we want our country to be great, our continent to be great, with men and women in it, succeeding together. So indeed, when you look at the family unit, you're looking at the narrative, the value system, and the social fabric of we Africans as a people. It means we have to be looking at the role that men play, the role our children play, and the role that women play. So for me, I think we cannot ignore women's empowerment conversation without looking at that family unit. Hopefully we succeed economically and socially with a strong family unit.
Catherine, there has been a lot of talk about the effect women empowerment is having on the boy child. How do you approach this?
Well, one of the pillars that we are going to address at the conference is actually youth and women. So among the youth, you have the boy child.
Yes.
There's also one other pillar that Tiwa really strongly feels endeared towards, and this is men building bridges. So men are involved in every aspect of our life. I strongly believe that for a very long time we have been educating the girl child and ignoring the boy. It is time for us to start shifting the narrative and educate the boy child so that he and the girl can actually have a level playing field, hold proper discussions, because now you find the boy is actually a little introverted, but the girl is very extroverted because everybody is patting her on the back and saying, good, 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 go, go. But the boy is waiting to be patted on the back. So I believe that, things need to begin to shift slightly so that we can now begin to empower the young man, to take the mantle that he actually is endowed with, because he has it, but he does not know that he has it because we've shifted our attention to somebody else.
Many times we find that programs that touch on women empowerment, they take place on a higher level. how do we cascade it down to the women in the grassroots? Because in Kenya, we have so many women in the millions in the counties.
Yes, absolutely. We must look at the 2 tiers. You know, the high level you speak about is important because policies, decision making is done at that level, and we need to advocate and influence at that level so that we can unlock, you know, the right policies that will actually unlock the majority of women who, yes, as you say, are at the base, you know, on the ground. That said, at Tiwa, what we do, we actually have a county model, okay, that actually partners with county governments to actually, and through their structure, the government structure and the community structure, you know, women in the community structure, to actually mobilize hundreds of thousands of women to come and be part of the transformation conversation.
Yes.
You'd be surprised, Edward. These are women with they're very dignified women. They're smarter than most people think. They're really forward thinking, and they really catch on very fast. We actually rolled out a Women in Construction, a non-traditional sector program for women, you know, at the base. And so far we have reached 24,500 in 2 counties, Nairobi County and Kiambu County. And you'd be surprised, you know, that once we looked at where the poverty is held, which is in the mind, I think across the board, not just in the base, you know, our mindset. These women just uptook these opportunities and now are actually getting employment and labor force within the construction industry. A number of them are actually doing businesses within the sector. Again, when you look at sustainable agriculture, this is happening on the ground. And these are the women on the ground who are the champions and the contributors of this work down there that are actually going to have the ripple effect of our economic livelihoods, which actually in turn cascades upwards to our economic growth. So I think that's where it all happens. That's where the impact really is. And that's where the clincher is.
And we know that all this has a direct effect on families, because if a mother is doing very well economically, then children are able to live in an environment that is comfortable enough for them to go to school, comfortable enough for them to also look for employment opportunities. But what has the impact been so far? Because I understand that this is a journey that began in 2015,
yes.
And this is 2018. Next year, under a new theme, you are going to be looking for ways of you know, escalating this. What has the impact been, especially on the young ones in the family, and specifically girls?
Yeah. So, Edward, when we again set up the organization, our vision, which continues to be the case, was to transform this continent socially and economically through women. And we do that in partnership with men and key stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? They are government, the development agencies, the business community, private sector, and counties. Okay, because that framework exists across the continent, right? When we came into a platform, we said we're going to have a 2-step approach. The first step is to have an annual platform, which are the conferences, where the leaders of the continent, men and women from all these sectors I have mentioned, come and agree tangible strategies that would draw our country and our continent forward, and ensuring that women's role is clear in it. But if you look at the history of Africa, we are really blessed with, you know, high intellectual capacity, a lot of research, you know, talent, resources, and everything. But the one area we need to do better at is implementing and executing all the ideas that we have within our continent. So I set out to dare to put a platform that would say, leaders, those who are in the room, we are the people who will be held accountable to the things that we're saying here. We must have actionable outcomes that we will go to implement. And they have to be so real and practical that they happen on the ground, and we must come back year after year to give a showcase and account of what's happening on the ground. Now, in 2015, the theme of that year was Healed Heals. And Healed Heals was about healing the heals of women, but also healing our mindsets and transforming our growth through women, the heals. And in that place, we were having conversations around future industries, opportunities for women, the vulnerabilities that women face. What are these vulnerabilities? You find that when a woman is economically vulnerable, there's an immediate exposure. She will marry anybody. She will have sex for money. She will be vulnerable to HIV and AIDS. She'll be vulnerable to GBV. How is that? Because, you know, with the burden of, you know, a livelihood that's just one person bringing the household income, the man, most of the time, you find that the burden of the needs of the home are pressured on the man. And so the woman is coming to ask for money for school fees, money for food, money for this, and it bottles up. Sometimes it leads to the violence, okay? So we said, let's set out at the conversation, we said, let's set out to empower women with skills where they can unlock opportunities in traditional sectors like construction and infrastructure, because those are sectors that are growing across the continent. The economic opportunities are great, $8.5 to $15. That's 850 Kenya shillings to 1,500 Kenya shillings per day for the lowest level, the unskilled artisan. And if women can uptake these jobs, that's a significant additional household income. But this was interesting. When we go to the grassroots, okay, and you tell women, what are you able to do? Do you believe in yourself? And they would sing this slogan, anything a man can do, a woman can do better. Now, therein lies a major problem, because that narrative and that slogan destabilizes the family unit. It means that this woman now starts to earn more money. What is she carrying back to the house? Anything that you can do, I can do better? The money that, you can earn money, I can earn more money?
Yes.
No, it starts to destabilize. So the first thing we do is we shift that narrative. We can never be men. We can't sire children. As men cannot carry pregnancies. There's going to be significant differences, as there's still some similarities. We both have brains,
Yes.
Brains will function. So we're not competing, we are partners. So if you earn more money, which is likely because the husbands of the ladies in the base are, in jengos, they're construction laborers or other odd jobs, it's likely that when they start unlocking these opportunities, that their income may be higher. And this is true not just at the base, at every level of the women's empowerment chain, okay? We have to stabilize those narratives and let everybody have their position. So the impact, you asked me, what has the impact been? The 24,500 women we have reached within the construction space have tapped into a whole new space of opportunities. Their confidence, because of the life skills and the mindset, is really high. But guess what? There's this new narrative in the home that I am a partner. And so this is what's been translated to their families and to the children. In Kiambu County, can you believe when we're doing our mobilization, men were the ones who were coming saying, in which day are you in this stadium? We want to bring our wives and children. And we asked them why. They said because the ones we have talked to and the ones we're interacting with have a very positive outlook that we admire and we men like. So that means as long as you shift that narrative and you still empower the woman, and we know that we're not competing, we're an equal contributor, and it's household incomes that we are, total household income, not my income or your income. It's a household income that is increasing, which is improving our livelihood.
Yes.
Then we're going to win together.
All right. Catherine,
Yes.
there has been a lot of reports in the media about young girls becoming pregnant. 30 did give birth while doing their KCPE exams. What comes into your mind when you see such figures? Of course, the government has embarked on investigating why. From where you stand or where you sit?
I think the family fabric is being eroded by something. It could be what we are consuming, as in what you see, what you hear. Value systems have really, gone down, and there's nobody, checking on them. I think the media has a big role to play in, the way things are turning out, because the media has been churning up news that does not inspire. It actually expires somebody. No, at the end of watching a news bulletin sometimes, you feel sad, shocked, you're horrified most of the time. We have stopped the culture of producing documentaries that educate, people. Programs like this, Family Matters, how many stations are running local programs like this? Instead, we are going to Hollywood and we are bringing in things that are so dangerous, for our children. And that's why we see them experimenting, with their bodies and not even being scared about, anything. And then again is the moral fabric that has been, because you find a man should know that this is a primary school child. Surely you do not touch. She's an adolescent. She does not know anything about her body at all, they're still playing, you know, catch the ball. You know, she's still going to fetch firewood and or, you know, just learning how to cook, learning how to be a child. I think we need to go back to the drawing board, the media included, and begin to look inward and see what is it that we are doing to our society, because we are eroding very valuable and, you know, and wonderful cultural beliefs that kept us within a certain confine.
You were in the media when Kenya media industry was going through its teething stage.
Yes.
How different was it in terms of what we see today? Because clearly there is that argument that you know, some young men and women in the media are using broadcasts to advertise themselves.
It is shocking. Sometimes it is absolutely repulsive, you know, because I don't know, but once you're in the media, you're already in everybody's eyes. And mark you, the fact that somebody has switched on the television to watch you does not necessarily mean he is your friend. In normal circumstances, he would not even walk anywhere near you, okay? So we really need to conduct ourselves with a lot of respect, because somebody has really respected you to the extent of inviting you into their private abode. If anybody invites you to their house, it means you are very, very close to them. So as a broadcaster, you must realize that you are entering somebody's house, and please conduct yourself in a manner to suggest that you actually respect the viewer, because the viewer comes before anything else, before the station, the viewer. So I think we, you know, the media houses need to come together and see how to curb this thing in the bud. The other thing I would like to say is oversaturation is just a no-no, because on Facebook, they are on Facebook, they are on Twitter, selfies here and there and all that. Then they start complaining that, you know, their reputation is being marred and everything, but you exposed yourself. So I think we need to exercise some modicum of intelligence, you know, when it comes to managing yourself as a brand in broadcasting, because we are quickly losing that which used to be honored.
Wow. We are at a time when there's a lot of women empowerment programs going on, including yours. In Parliament right now, the constitutional amendment seeking to legalize or put into law the two-thirds gender principle is active before the National Assembly. The 11th Parliament was not able to pass it into law. We saw litigation processes, even the court telling Parliament that you need to pass this as quickly as possible. Is it about the numbers, or it's about the quality of leadership that women are bringing to the society?
I'd say, Edward, it's both. Initially, when you want to bring diversity and inclusion, you may need to have a sort of affirmative action approach so that you have that inclusivity in gender. You can have women. So at that point in time, you may not necessarily be pinning down on is the quality of this woman leader up to a certain par and standard, although there is a basic, you know, expectation of leadership in Parliament and in the legislative space. But initially, I think it's important to have the numbers, okay, because the numbers on a large scale will give affirmation to other women that it is possible. They will give inspiration to other women who want to make it that it is possible, because they see those women who are in the space, you know, doing the thing. That said, I'd say if it's on the initial point of numbers, we must have some processes that we put in place to empower and to keep those women who have been, you know, elected, nominated, or who have, you know, made the two-third bar to bring that representation. Now, moving then on to quality, I think it's important always to have quality. The quality of leadership determines the output of what we bring. If you do not have people, male or female, who understand the laws or the roles that they have in representing the public, the kind of roles and policies that we're putting in place, the vision of your county, your province, your state, and the responsibility you have to the people in putting in place today a plan that will guarantee development for the future generation that have not been born. If you don't have that kind of leadership, then we're really undoing the gains that each team of leaders are coming on board to put in. It means that we're going to be breaking down the gains that are being made all the time because we'll be rebuilding because we don't understand our role. Okay? So I think that quality is very important. And as far as women are concerned, both quality and numbers are important.
How do you respond to the narrative that has been there for a very long time, that women are their own enemies, that women are not speaking using the same voice?
Personally, I've come across that narrative growing up in high school and everything, and I choose to bust that narrative because it could be stated, and a lot of people who say that say they have numbers and facts to prove that women can be their worst enemies. But when you really look at that narrative, who comes to funerals when people are bereaved? Who's the majority number?
The women.
The women. When children are born, who comes? Who are the majority number of people? Who come?
The women.
The women. Now the women are coming to see who?
To see another woman and the baby.
And the baby. Whom are they coming to grieve, and what are they doing in that process of grieving? Whether it is a man who died or a woman who died, the burden of the social responsibility is lying primarily with women. And when you find a lot of women in that space, they're helping a woman, right? So I think that there's a lot going for women, supporting women. But I still believe there is room for women coming together to do things together. And I think without sidelining the aspect of women, I'd say men and women in Africa need to collaborate more, and more so women. Because when you look at the numbers, you know what would happen if women had one voice? We would elect the leader of the continent easily. We would be channeling a lot of change and transformation much faster, right? But again, it's about mindset, culture, and a lot of these things that we still need to put some more effort on. But I choose to speak the narrative that I want to see, that women are their largest supporters.
All right.
Yeah.
And Catherine, we already know that what is being churned out in the media today is not something that you would probably want your daughter or your son to pick. But there are those few examples that you can probably point out and say that this is something that I would want my children to pick. So far, how much of that is there? And are you able to pinpoint without naming names?
Oh boy, you're putting me in a very interesting position, yeah? Well, there's a lot. There's a lot to be proud of. There's a lot to appreciate. And, there are many times I actually watch television and I'm gratified, that I am living and seeing such a time as this. I think technology is one very impressive thing. News delivery is also wonderful. In fact, if I may just, quip, Kenya is one of the highest ranking media, not only consumers, but, media house hub in Africa. Apart from South Africa, we have the quality of CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera. These days, they ask the local media houses to allow them to lift stories off of their bulletins, because we are faster. We do live streaming just like they do. We have helicopters. We have OB vans, the mobile studios. So I think we have really advanced, and I believe a lot needs to be done. When I was joining broadcasting, oh, wow. It was, of course, that's what we had then.
Yes.
We had grown up to that level, and we had just adopted color to television. In fact, I remember the French team that came to install the machines that would enable us, to have color. We're working not too far from this studio, and we used to wonder, what are they doing, in that place? And suddenly we had color, but if you had a black and white, that's when now you knew who had black and white TV and who had color TV. We have really grown in leaps and bounds, and I am grateful that I have been able to witness all this transition, from VHF, very high frequencies, which was the voice of Kenya,
yes,
to ultra high frequencies, which was now the KTNs and the rest who came afterwards. But still, VHF is the best. You're the foundation, and that's the reason why I decided we should come here for our maiden, media activation. So we have grown, and then now the digital migration has now taken us to another level altogether. But I won't be surprised if something else came up very, very soon, because we have great potential of technologists in Africa. We are producing the greatest brains in Africa. And again, Kenya itself also, prides itself in a lot of technology innovation. So, well.
Nyakan, how do we integrate women into the Big Four? Because right now, the county governments are also finding ways of working in tandem with the government. They're aligning their development agenda to the Big Four. How do we ensure that women are not left behind? And if women are not left behind, families are also able to be part and parcel of this dream that the government has for this country.
I first of all like that, women can actually be engendered inside the Big Four agenda. And it makes a lot of strategic, political, business, and development sense. I'd say a number of ways. One, I think the leadership of the country in totality across the sectors needs to look at, the agenda and understand, first of all, and believe that women are a key contributor, that they can actually help propel that agenda forward really quickly. I think that women can be a big lever for our achievement of the Big Four agenda. Number two, the policies. We have food security, we have universal health care, we have affordable housing, and we have the manufacturing. Really believing that women can contribute actively across those diverse sectors. And looking at the policy, because the policy framework makes it very easy to cascade implementation at all levels, at county level, at national government level, at private sector level. Once it's in policy, it's easy to cut across and have that implementation bring in the different players into the game. So that's at top level. The leadership needs to understand and figure out and believe that women can play a role there. If you don't believe it, you're not going to give it the goodwill it needs. And then create the policies or allow the policies to be, realigned,
yes,
inclusively. Not even just women, with the youth, with all the different sectors, the people living with disabilities inside there. Now, the next step is to actually go to the women. And sometimes you find that women kick themselves out of these opportunities. They don't believe they can. Let them be empowered first to believe that they can, and to look at practically taking a role and playing a role in it. What does that look like? It looks like women coming together at community level, county level, starting to look at farming, sustainable farming, and working in groups and resilient crops, because women actually are the ones who will be left holding the bag when there's drought, And once they understand the critical role in looking at the sustainable ways in which to farm, then, you have them contributing and give them the support. One of the biggest challenges, because again, we said in the beginning, women form more than 80% of small-scale farmers across the board. So one of the challenges I have seen that women face is access to markets. So pulling behind our weight and ensuring that they're supported through the different value chains and that they have fair value. Because you find that women do a lot of work, and the men are very sharp, they're smart. They just play where there's least effort and maximum results, brokers. That's where you find the logistics and brokering.
Yes.
That's the place that the men play, which is okay, if only that they can give the farmers fair value, good prices. Okay? So if that can all be taken care of in policy, we'll have a lot of higher production, higher output, and our food security agenda will cascade much faster. When you're looking at housing, because we have had the privilege of working with the women in construction, and in one of our largest slums here in Kibera in Nairobi, we found that just with these skills, women were already transforming the outlook of the slums. They were painting, they were roofing, they were tiling, they were building walls. And they were doing that for each other and for others. Now that's a workforce that we have available to quickly propel us to fulfilling our Big 4 agenda. In Kenya, with our affordable housing and this workforce, there were a number of things that the private sector players and our National Construction Authority partner in our Women in Construction project. A number of things we observed were this, that women in the construction space have a high attention to detail. The quality of work was never compromised. They wouldn't mix less water. That's not to imply that men do, but this was their feedback. They are really good at following, the measures, the finishing, quality and standards. Because we're not just looking for affordable housing, but we're looking for affordable housing that is quality and that will sustain over time, right? So again, bringing them into that as a workforce that would contribute to that is a good opportunity for that. And let me talk about manufacturing. You see the dress I'm wearing, cotton, farming, to fabric design, to the print, is done by Kenyans actually. The lipstick I'm wearing, you wouldn't believe it, it's manufactured by a Kenyan woman. Manufacturing and industrialization is a possibility. And women are doing great things. The hats I wear are made by Kenyan women. Would you believe it? So I am the embodiment of possibility. The things that women are doing across the value chains, across different sectors. And I think if we give them a chance, our president will be very happy with the delivery of his Big 4 agenda.
Wow.
Yes.
And Catherine, let's talk about what young women pick. The teenagers, those who are probably, sitting at home watching this program, and they have 2 months to rest because the schools will be opening in January.
Yes.
What should they pick in terms of family? Because, like we were saying, that some are using broadcast to market themselves.
Yes.
They're not teaching the values that are supposed to be taught. That you're supposed to start a family, maintain that family, and watch your children grow, becoming who they want to be. So how do you guide young girls into picking the positives? Because there's a lot of negative, but there's still positives.
Yes.
Yes, without talking about the things that we have talked about.
Well, first I will go to the parents. Yeah, the guardian.
Yes.
They are the custodians, per se, of the young ones. I think it's time for us to start taking responsibility of not being afraid of our children, but nurturing them and inculcating good values into them. And just asking them to be a little more responsible and self-respecting. What I would say about the young girls is that away from school, they don't have mentors. They don't have me or Nyakan, to look up to. It's almost unrealistic, we are not out there. What I would like to appeal to the women folk who have made it, who have reached, the higher echelons of society, of the corporate market. These are the people that these young girls would aspire to be. And why don't we come up with something, like during school holidays, like now, either vocational training or just, mentoring them, talking to them, and giving them your story, telling them your story. It is more believable when you tell me your story than when I watch something on television. I will practice it for a little while, and then I'll realize, oh, I did something wrong. But when somebody comes to you, and tells you something about themselves, they feel, oh my goodness, you've trusted me so much to share. So I believe that women in Kenya need to begin to embrace the girls. We also need to embrace our young men.
Right. I want to believe you have a family. How many children?
Yes, I have 4 children.
You have 4 children?
Yes.
All of them same gender?
No, I have 3 boys and 1 girl. Interesting.
3 boys, 1 girl.
Yes.
What sort of freedom do you give them in terms of choice?
I balance by age. And when we started to have our children, we believed that we need to develop leaders. We needed to develop independent thinkers, who would be able to make the correct decisions, even in our absence, should life happen. So we really formed a very strong foundation of God, spiritual nurturing, the Bible, building leadership with the Bible as a blueprint for the family. The other thing is we looked at each child for who they are.
Yes.
So that they are growing up independent and confident that they don't have to be like each other. Okay? So looking at the abilities, the talents, the gifts and the potential of each child. So that they are the best them that they can be, without feeling like they need to compete with the sister or the brother or who each one really is. Okay? And then over the time, we actually felt it was important to balance it off, not to give too much, okay? Because then you rob them of an opportunity to build a strong ethic of work, of responsibility, and of accountability, okay? So we, at a very young age, all of them, give them chores that they do for free, like you're not getting paid, and a chore that you get paid for, to start to instill the culture of working and reward accordingly, okay? That cultured, even as we see the children getting bigger, a responsibility and a respect for working. And then we actually taught them from a very young age to balance off media. We're in a media world, too much is going on, and you find that, media influences our children, and we even as adults, you're what you see and what you hear. So we told them the importance of decisions, choices, and consequences. And we gave them opportunities and said, the TV can give you the following options: entertainment, learning, education, skills, business ideas. Choose what you want to use it for. And every hour, choose what you would like it to be. Every day, choose an hour and choose what that media, and that hour includes your choice of, if you choose this, the iPad, then you have forfeited TV and, phone, okay? Phone is for communicating to other people so that they can learn to balance, not to be overconsumed with all this tech. Of course, the older they get, like the teenagers now, of course have more time because research, information and everything, but being responsible with what their choices are and the consequences. So we balance it off. Money, balance it off. We give you your account. You have an account for it. You balance it off. You choose your spending, and you explain why your choices of spending. On holidays, they work. They go to work, not for money. They intern. They volunteer. So they can learn. They have to, because we realize a lot of young people want it quick and want it easy. And the role that parents play is very important.
Okay.
We're the ones who paint what it is that they will grow up to be believing. All
right. Yes. Catherine, that's quite interesting.
Yes.
But considering that the media today is moving from the normal broadcast to digital, because we have seen companies, cutting down on staffing, saying that we need to re-strategize. So how do families cope with this, considering that many parents are trying to deal with social media? But where you are taking your children from is the same place that the media is taking.
To take them back.
Yes. So how do you balance?
Actually, it's very, very true. Oftentimes you watch a news bulletin and you ask yourself, okay, when did we stop being reporters going out into the field? Because like 5 of the stories have been hived off of social media.
Yes.
And, you know, I say, wow, you know, this should not be allowed at all, you know, because first of all, the quality of the news, the storyline is just, you know, is insensitive a lot of the times. And, you know, I feel that social media is becoming a tool we cannot ignore, totally and completely. It has its good side, but it is a very dangerous tool if left in the hands of young ones who do not know how to, you know, contain themselves or know when to stop looking at something, especially when something is opened, you know, before you close it, you've already, you know, consumed it.
Yes.
And a lot of times these things actually influence the people. I always say whatever you ingest is what will come out of you. So, yeah.
All right. We have just a few minutes to wrap up, but in February, Timeless Women will be having a conference, and if liberating Africa socially and economically, are there big names that we should expect? Because I know that the Ethiopian president has graced one of those conferences. Chatterjee of the UN has also been a guest. The Liberia's vice president has also been among the chief guests. Are we looking at the Michelle Obamas of this world? And what will you be trying to achieve in that conference in February?
Yeah, the theme for Timeless Women's Conference in February 2019,
yes,
as you've said, is liberating Africa socially and economically. We're moving away from political liberation, which most African nations have, to socio-economic liberation. Yes. Some of the big names that are going to grace our platform are, you know, the fiber optic inventor, a brilliant mind of Africa, native Ghanaian, but with American citizenship. He is the inventor for the fiber optic, our internet, you know, connectivity of today. We're hoping that, yes, Michelle Obama will grace.
That would be really huge.
It will be huge. We're looking at the vice president for Boeing Global Services, you know, the largest airline in the world. She is a vice president for engineering and mechanical maintenance. You know, really, really big. We're looking at drawing African women leads within the continent, vice presidents. The vice president Inongwe from Zambia. We're looking at High Excellency Jewel, again, coming back. Our just recently inaugurated President Saleh Zode is a name that we're hoping will grace the occasion. Our top leadership in this country, you know, is a leader definitely that we're hoping to grace alongside, you know, like and similar leadership within our country. And top corporate and business leaders. I mean, the names cut across. They've already confirmed. We're talking about Tabitha Karanja, you know, our local Kenyan leader. We're talking about Professor Oyeyinka Oyebanji, who is the Chief of Staff for Africa Development Bank, already confirmed. You know, we have really top leadership confirmed, as we always do in the previous years. Timeless will be celebrating 5 years next year. Isa Kashira, Rwandan ex-mayor, currently, you know, a leader within the Rwanda country, and other big names. What Timeless is about is not just big names, but content and influence and a platform for connecting, drawing strategies and bringing out outcomes that we implement. So we're drawing over 1,000 women, delegates and men from all over Kenya, Africa, and the world into this platform to agree strategies that will truly shift Africa and our country, Kenya, and our counties to the next level, economically.
Yes.
Okay? We're looking at women coming in and trading, because access to markets, like I said, is a big barrier for women. But bringing the different ideas, the different businesses, the different projects that women have, and linking them to partners you know, people who can support them, invest in their businesses and their projects,
Yes.
and take those to the next level.
Okay.
We're looking at exchanging knowledge in workshops and networking. It'll be great.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as we wrap up, I think I'll give Catherine the opportunity to wrap up. I don't remember the last time you wrapped up, I'm sure. So what are the social media platforms, the website,
Oh my goodness.
and how can someone get them?
Okay, our social media platforms, we are on Twitter, we are on Facebook, we are on, we have a website. So our Twitter handle is TWOW, okay, TWOW Africa. And our Facebook, our Facebook is TWOW Africa as well. Twitter is at TWOW Africa, and Facebook is TWOW Africa and Timeless Women Conference. Our website page is Timeless Women's Conference.
All right.
Yes.
I don't know whether we're going to have such an engagement, but I do thank you very much. And but like I said, I'm going to give Catherine the opportunity of wrapping up Family Matters for us tonight. So I am not going to be wrapping up Family Matters, but the same way she used to wrap up her bulletins. You're going to look at the camera and you're going to wrap it up for us. That does it for me. I'm handing it over to her to wrap up Family Matters tonight.
We thank you so very much for allowing us to grace your living rooms, and thank you for allowing us to speak to you and share with you this conversation, Family Matters. Thank you for watching Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. I am Catherine Kasavuli, and she is Nyakan Munyeki, and he is Edward, the host of this show. See you next week. Enjoy.
It was wonderful. It was wonderful.
That was great, isn't it?
It oozes experience.